I'm so excited to chat about vintage vessels, which are one of my favorite things in the world to thrift. I love like a weird, beautiful object that is just an object for the sake of being an object, right? Like a sculpture, a piece of art. But I also really love thrifting usable things. I love when form meets function. And that's what we're going to talk about today. If you are new to me or my Substack, I'm Virginia Chamlee. I wrote a book called Big Thrift Energy a couple years ago, and I run the Substack What's Left. And it is all about interior design, sometimes a little bit of fashion, but really through the lens of secondhand shopping. I sold antiques for a really long time. I still do on Cherish. I'm a Cherish super seller. I've sold vintage pieces to celebrities and big name interior designers. And I also just have spent a lifetime collecting vintage. So I love hopping on here every Thursday and sharing like the things that I love to thrift, either my recent thrift scores or just pieces from my personal collection. I have like an endless supply of stuff. And I try to do a theme every week. And so I'll do like handbags or I'm going to do art in a little bit. But today we're talking about vintage vessels. And I thought that was a good topic because it's one of my favorite things to thrift. And when I say vessels, I mean items that hold other smaller items. So ashtrays are a great example. Boxes are a great example. Boxes are one of my all-time favorite things in the world to thrift, actually. And I'm going to show you a couple of my favorites today. I think vases also falls under the category of vessels. Also pitchers or items that could be used in lieu of a vase. So let's get into it. Let's show you some of my favorite vessels, and I'll tell you how I use them. I got this one at an estate sale a couple years ago. I love that it kind of resembles a UFO, like a little flying saucer. And I love that it's chrome, which is like huge right now. You guys, I'm sure, have seen all the big chrome kitchens all over Instagram and Pinterest. I also love chrome and metal in small doses, but it's mixed with wood. It has a wooden base and a little wooden top. And there's something kind of mid-century but also futuristic to me about this. You know, certainly in the 1950s, I think our idea of like space and Martians and robots was really interesting, and so I love finding pieces of design that kind of mimic that. This one I have nothing in, but I keep it on my built-ins, and sometimes I'll put just like extra hair ties in it or like ear pods or something, things that I sort of don't necessarily want people to see. Like hair ties are not cute. So anything with a little top on it, I find to be incredibly, exceptionally useful. Here's another example of another little box with a top. And this one is a wooden box that I also got at an estate sale. And this one is especially interesting because it has the person's full name, phone number, address, and I think this may be prison art, which is a thing. You know, when you're in prison and you have nothing to do, you make art. You'll hear the term tramp art used a lot, and I'm going to do a Substack all about tramp art soon. But tramp art is kind of like folk art, or like tramp was another word for hobo, which neither of those words are things that I think we should be saying, but that's sort of what people mean when they say tramp art. So anything made out of like scraps, popsicle sticks, old signs. I think this was probably like a patchwork of different types of wood. I'm not positive that this is prison art, but I did once Google the address and it looked on Google Maps like it was near a prison. And this was done in 1998. But this was an interesting piece because I got this at an estate sale of a home that was a major collector of folk art. And so they had a lot of incredible like Howard Finster pieces. Like I'm trying to remember who else they had. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this was just like a tiny box that they had on their shelf. I think it was priced at $5, but it's signed and all this information underneath it. So sometimes those little like unknown pieces can actually wind up being quite valuable. And one tip I have is when you're shopping at an estate sale and you're at an estate and somebody has like an incredible art collection, look through everything. Like people with an incredible art collection also tend to have incredible clothes. They tend to have really interesting jewelry. And a lot of times, even those smaller pieces are actually art, but the estate sale companies don't know how to do their research. They don't have time to research every little bit and bob. So this was one of those pieces that was like $5, and I actually think it's probably worth more. Again, it has a top on it, and look at the inside. It's so beautiful. This is actually quite sizable. So you could practically leave the top of this and use it as a small fruit bowl, which I think would be fun, like lots of citrus, yellow and green popping out. I think that would be gorgeous. Okay, on to the next vessel. Here's a really great, another sort of folk art piece. My grandmother got this for me at an estate sale many years ago, so I will never part with it. This is like a very sort of folk arty scene. Terracotta on the bottom. It is signed. There is no way I will ever be able to make out that signature unless I happen to be at a museum or a store one day and I see it like a similar signature and they have it on the tag. What it is, no idea. If any of you can make that out, wow, you're a genius. Let me know if you can. Anyway, I think this is very well done. Clearly like folk arty. I love how it has this like just interesting pastoral scene. There's an airplane up in the sky and a truck and a barn. There's even a transfer truck on this side, which, you know, that can kind of clue you into the timing, right? Probably not super old because obviously transfer trucks weren't going around the country until I guess somewhat recently. Anyway, this is just like a really cool piece, and I sometimes use this for vases, as a vase. Rather, I will put tulips in it, which I think are really, really pretty, and I'll keep it next to my bed. Little thing of roses can also be pretty in this. Obviously, you could use this as a picture if you wanted, but I think it's so beautiful that it needs to be displayed, and certainly putting flowers in it attracts your eye to it even more. Here's another little vessel from an estate sale again. I think everything except one thing is from an estate sale. And the last thing I'll show you is thrifted. This is beautiful. This is very dusty because I never clean it. This is Rosenthal. It's signed on the bottom. So Rosenthal is a German porcelain manufacturer. And I actually use this to keep my matchboxes in. So I collect little vintage matchbooks. And if I ever go to a restaurant I really love, I always take the matches and I pile them in here. Matchbooks are really pretty, most of them. So I don't mind that there's no top on this. In fact, I like people to be able to see them. I love the shape of this. It's just so stunning. I love how the lip is a little bit lower on one side so you can see the beautiful red interior. I just really like this, and I keep it on my coffee table on a stack of books. And yeah, it's useful and pretty, and it was not very expensive at the estate sale. I'm sure I paid $10 or less for it. Yeah, and it's by a really great manufacturer too. So this is real porcelain and has no chips or anything. So very good piece. Feel free to chime in, by the way, if you guys have questions. That's why I like doing these lives. And while we're here, I wanted to mention too that I am going to be doing a live with a friend, a Substack friend, in maybe a couple weeks. I'm traveling later tonight. I'll be going to Cleveland, and next week I'll be in Tucson. But I'm really excited because I think we're going to do a workshop about thrifting. I have another workshop planned about selling, which I will do probably solo. And that'll be for paid subscribers because I don't think everybody cares about selling. But certainly I want to be able to share my journey as a cherished seller. And I've had booths at antique galleries many years ago. I feel like I have a lot to say about how to sell, how to market yourself, and also how to buy, which I think is a skill that is learned over many years. Because when you're first starting out, you end up buying a lot of stuff that you don't sell. It takes trial and error. And anyway, I'll get into all of that. But I would love to hear from you guys timing wise, what works best. I do my lives on Thursdays typically just because like Thrift Score Thursday, easy way to remember it. But for the workshop, I don't know, I'd like as many people to tune in live as possible. It will be available after the fact to paid subscribers as well. But I want to be able to answer questions in real time. And certainly you can submit questions ahead of time. But if there's like is a weekday better? Is a weekend better? Is during traditional work hours better? Is lunch hours better? Morning? Anytime I can do it. Please just let me know. Like shoot me a DM or leave a comment on my Substack. Okay, this is one of my favorites. This is so gorgeous. From an estate sale, similar to what I was talking about before. This was a fabulous estate sale. So much high-end art. Almost everything in the sale was so expensive, but this was not. And this is signed. I can't quite make out the artist name. I do think I Googled it once, but it does say St. Croix on the bottom. So I assume that means it was made in St. Croix. Absolutely stunning, huge. I use this for citrus, although sometimes in my built-ins, I will pile this with shells. I have a lot of really beautiful pieces of coral and shells, and I'll sort of pile them in almost like their fruit, and it just looks like a piece of art. This is another one that I have not listed. I thought about it at one point, but I really love it. I love any time the unfinished terracotta is on one side and then the outside is like a really, thank you, Grace. I think it's so beautiful. There's just something really unique about it. It's very artsy, and I love, like I said, the juxtaposition between like the matte terracotta and then the really shiny stuff. But this was on at an estate sale. It was like second floor in the house's library, in built-ins. There was a ton of stuff in there. And I think it was like one of the rooms that most people would kind of bypass because it kind of looked like junk, but they had some really beautiful pieces in there. So I got this one, and I also got this really amazing book, which I don't have handy, but I'll have to show you guys at one point because it looked like a book, but it's actually, you open it and it's just a bunch of pieces of art. And I've seen it online for like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And, I think I paid $5 or something for it. The people didn't know what it was. Last thing, and this is a true vessel in every sense of the word. And this was thrifted. So this I got for $3 at a thrift store. I love thrifting these ceramic baskets. I think that they have a tendency to look very precious, especially if you see them just on a thrift store shelf. It's like, what would I do with this? This looks like something my grandmother would have, and it would be sat next to a doily or something. But I actually think this one, the color, first of all, is really cool because it's almost like this neon mint green. These are actually fairly valuable in the sense that people on Cherish and First Dibs will pay $100 for these, or $125. You gotta look underneath. They almost always will say made in Italy, and this one does, if they're really good, because the Italians know how to make ceramics and porcelain, and especially really detailed ones like this. Sometimes I see some that are even more grandma's home looking, and they'll have like a little bow or a ribbon. And sometimes they'll have an actual, like, instead of a ceramic ribbon, they'll have an actual ribbon, and you can just untie that. I think a lot of times people will bypass things without realizing, like, hey, you could repaint it. Or like if it's a piece of art, just think of what it would look like in a different frame. Or if it has some weird doily attached to it. Or like if it's a vase that someone has like put weird flowers in, you can take that stuff out and make it more you. That's what's cool about going to a thrift store. They don't care if you kind of mess with stuff. If it's a chair, you can sit in it, for instance. Like I said, $3. This one's really nice too because it has the little felt pieces on the bottom, but you can buy these at like Amazon, and this way it won't scratch up your table. I use this one because I keep my remotes in it, which is such a great thing because it just sits on top of my coffee table. It allows you to not really see my remotes. It hides them. And I just think it's really kind of like, I don't know, almost so sweetsy that it's kind of subversive or something, depending on how you style it. So this is a piece that I really love. But I would love if you guys would share some of your favorite vessels with me. If you want to maybe leave a comment under this live and show me some of your favorite pieces or tell me about them. That's half the joy for me in doing this, is hearing from other people and honestly teaching. I did a Substack that was very, very well received a couple days ago, which I was quite surprised by, but I talked about my income, and I talked about how I went from making a $45,000 salary to making more than 3 times that. And part of the way I did that is through selling vintage. But I will be honest with you, in recent years, and especially since my book came out, I sell less vintage. I have offset that income with other things for me personally, because I have book sales and I have Substack subscriptions and I get affiliate commissions, and I get paid now to talk to people all over the country. Like I said, I'll be in Cleveland this weekend, and I'll be in Tucson next weekend. But I think what's fun for me that I've learned and that I really, really love about Substack and Instagram is that I can scratch the itch for thrifting without actually buying things. Because look, vintage sales have not been great in recent months. The economy's been a little precarious. People are not buying homes, and when they don't buy homes, they don't buy stuff to put in their homes, right? So I am fortunate in that I have figured out a way for myself to make money by doing 500 different things. Sometimes that's really hard, and I get burnt out sometimes because I just have a lot on my plate. But I'm also someone who has a lot of energy, and I like to just like go, 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 go. So I don't mind juggling all those plates. But I say all this because this is why I love Substack. I like talking to you guys about things that I've found, even if I don't buy them. That still brings me joy. Like if I can take a video of it and say somebody else needs to buy this, or hey, if you ever see this, you should buy this at your thrift store. That's just that's fun for me, and that's why I do this, and I love doing it. And hopefully I can share more with you guys. So anyway, that's it for today. If you have any recs in Cleveland, places to eat, get coffee, thrift, and certainly in Tucson. I've been to Tucson before, but the more recs, the merrier. Thanks. Bye, guys.